Hey guys, Ryan Erlacher here, your host of the Law Abiding Biker Podcast. Of course, up front, I just want to say thanks to the following people. They're patrons, guys. They became patrons. They took action. They want to support the show. They want to make sure that more bikers around the world can have access to this podcast and be part of the biker revolution. They are patrons, guys. lawabidingbiker.com/Patreon, Patreon. Doug Hawkins of Shawnee, Kansas, top tier donator, guys. Gets a bunch of benefits over there. Clifford Pernanio, I hope I said that right, of Port St. Lucie, Florida, top tier also. These top tier patrons, unbelievable guys. And Patrick Green of Semmes, Alabama. Semmes, I think I said it right, Semmes. That's right, guys. Patron, you can pledge a certain amount per piece of content and no risk to you guys. You can put a monthly cap on it so you stay within budget, guys. It really gives us direction, helps us put a little fuel in the law-abiding biker gas tank so we can keep this show going on down the road for you guys. Supports all our activities behind the scenes. Really, really appreciate it, guys. Take action. lawabidingbiker.com/Patreon. Thanks so much. They're sponsors of the show. That's what you can consider it, guys. All right, let's move along. And now, straight from the Law Abiding Biker Media Studio,
out of sunny Yakima, Washington,
we bring you another episode of the
#1 listen to motorcycle podcast.
We're in your head.
We're in your head.
We're in your head.
We're in your head.
That is right. Welcome back, you freaking bikeaholics. This is the podcast for the motorcycle majority, the big MM. That's right. Also known as the 99%. That's right. Of course, large and in charge of the motorcycle scene, guys. That's right. You heard it, 99%. You listen to this podcast? That's right. You are part of what we call the biker revolution. Before we get started, I just have one question, bikeaholics. What are you waiting for? Mount up. Let us take you on another wild-ass ride. That's right. Of course, Ryan Erlacher here, your host of the Law Abiding Biker Podcast and your high-tech redneck guys. Had a great day coming off a ride. Just got back to the studio like right now. I'll talk a little bit about me and Rick, Big Daddy, of course. You guys all know Big Daddy. He's been on the podcast a few times. We spit an episode this morning, a blab is what I'll tell you guys, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But some great content. And then after we spit a blab, we headed up. Lurch, Cuz, me, and Rick were the only ones available, Big Daddy, and we headed up to Ellensburg. Not a huge ride for us, pretty short in the scheme of things for us, but nonetheless, we got together, had lunch, had a Frosty, and enjoyed each other's company. It was a pretty beautiful day till the coming back was super, super windy. Some crosswinds of, I've hit them before coming back from Ellensburg, 70 plus gusts, but kept it real, kept a tight group, and it was just a great time. Really enjoyed it. So back in the studio here and finishing up. So like I say, we're trying some new things, guys, and I just want to tell you that we're always progressing forward. So I'm going to keep it simple for you. It's going to sound a little bit confusing, but it's really, really simple after I explain it. At any time, you guys want to keep up to date and you want to know when we go live and what platform. It's really, really simple. Go to lawabidingbiker.com/live. And right there, all the information you need is on that page. In the upper right-hand corner, there is a sign-up form. It's an email sign-up form, and you can simply sign up. The only emails you will receive when signing up for that email list is when we go live. On that email, there's a button, and you can come back. It says the date and time that we go live. You can come back to that email, hit that live button. It will take you to the necessary place or platform that you can listen and or watch us in video live. It's that simple. So I'm going to break it down a little bit, but I want you to know if you get confused, just always go to lawabidingbiker.com/live, get signed up for that free email list. Of course, don't forget we have our regular email list, lawabidingbiker.com/email club. That is totally different. That you want to be signed up for both, but you'll get notified when we come out with new free videos and content. Anyways, two separate lists there. But so we're trying out Periscope. You guys that get hooked up, make sure you get the Periscope app on Android and iOS, and make sure you have your notifications set. We go up sporadically here and there, different behind the scenes stuff. We had a giveaway recently, Lurch and I, and right on Periscope. The only way you can get involved with that, of course, is to get notified. And if you're available, you can watch us live video on Periscope. It's free. Get a free account. It's connected to Twitter, guys. All right. That's only on mobile platforms right there is Periscope. So what we did this morning, we're also on blab.im, blab.im. That allows us to use more of a desktop platform. It's also available on your mobile platform. And it allows us a lot more flexibility than Periscope. Although Periscope has its place, blab.im allows us to have up to 4 people at a time remotely. And it's like Brady Bunch is what I call it, because you'll see 4 videos, 4 talking heads. And of course, we can all, discuss a particular subject remotely. And it gives us a little more flexibility than Skype. And it's also live, and you can watch live and you can chat live, and you can even join us right on blab.im. If you're knowledgeable in the subject or you want to become involved in that topic, you can actually get right on if we leave an open seat, and up to 4 people. So if there's only 2 of us, like this morning, Rick and I, we left an open seat. You 2 for free can join. And if you want to get in on that conversation, we're going to try some of that. So we're always trying to progress and do things different. Of course, do not worry. We are always going to have the weekly podcast. So all the content we produce, like on Blab this morning, you're going to hear it right here on this podcast. Weeks later, of course, but nonetheless, I will repurpose it and put it always in a weekly podcast so that you can get the most up-to-date content and you don't feel like you always have to be live to get our content. I will repurpose it. You can always check the YouTube channel up. Some stuff goes up there. And I will ask you guys, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, it's getting huge. Please do. lawabidingbiker.com/YouTube. Just subscribe so you get notifications. We're putting out a ton of content. It helps us show that we have more subscribers, and these companies are taking us pretty serious these days, so we can look for some the program to grow and some future sponsorship and stuff as we gain more subscribers. But don't worry, if you're listening to this in podcast format, no big deal. We will continue to repurpose it and put it always. That's how we started. This venture was with a simple podcast, so we'll put it back in there for you. So today, Rick and I, Big Daddy, we talk all about. We've had a lot of questions on email lately. Ton of flooded emails always, of course. We're trying to keep up, guys. But we've had a lot of questions about audio systems. Now, you guys will hear me talk in a moment. I'm going to dive right into the Blab conversation I had remotely with Big Daddy. He's very, very, very knowledgeable. And I don't just say that. I tell you guys, he doesn't believe it, but I'm telling you, you guys know that are patrons and you're in the private Facebook group, Big Daddy, BD Kane. That guy is freaking smart about a ton of stuff, guys. I can't know it all, and I don't know it all, nor do I claim to. So I use people like Oscar. I surround myself by people with Oscar and Big Daddy and Lurch and everybody on the podcast. Chewy and Jake and Popeye and LD, they all bring something different. And that's why we have such a expansive group of people, because they all bring a different perspective, different abilities and different skills. Well, Big Daddy, let me tell you, he knows a lot about motorcycles, and the guy has taught me a lot, and props to him. But we get in the conversation of audio systems. And of course, you guys know I have already done a video on Hog Tunes. I'm currently running the Hog Tunes system. If you want to get that video, tons of bikers around the world. It will take the headache. I really spent time on that video, guys, breaking it down. You'll watch that video and go, okay, I can do that myself. It's so simple. lawabidingbiker.com/hogtunes. and you can install an amp and speakers. And I even show you how to do the rear speakers if you want to do that. I run the wires under the tank. Anyways, you guys know our videos by now. Super, super detailed and in a fashion that you can completely understand as regular bikers out there. So lawabidingbiker.com/hogtunes. We're in the process of testing multiple systems. We're working with several companies. We work with Hogtunes, and I'm satisfied. I'm happy with that system at this point. Much, much better than the stock speakers and Boom system, of course, without an amp. So stay tuned for a little bit more follow-up on that, but I am happy with it. I'm running it. We're testing more systems. Big Daddy is working with a company. I'm not going to name them right now because we're working out something with them. Hopefully they can understand the platform we have, and hopefully they will support all of you out there by supporting this show and understand that, the law-abiding biker community, and, that you guys are interested, but you also want to be treated well and know the company behind these particular stereo and audio products. Of course, that's what we're trying to bring to you guys. So we're testing that. Lurch is working with another company. We're going to do a system on his bike. All right. And that's an aftermarket system. We're working with that company too. Hopefully they will understand, because if they don't, guys, you know us very, very well. If they aren't, in tune with the 99% out there and they're not in tune with the law-abiding biker community, well, we're going to report that to you too. Because like I've told you guys in the past, we should not just be buying stuff from these companies that don't, cater to us, the motorcycle majority. We are the reason they exist. And I've said that in the past. So we like to get their input and see if they want to work with us. So I'll just tell you, stay tuned, get on that email list, lawabidingbiker.com/email club. So you guys know when we're doing these projects and when we come out with the new stuff and new information, the YouTube channel, and of course this podcast. So what this particular conversation is about, we have had a ton of questions about specifically the Harley Davidson Boom Audio Stage 1 and Stage 2 speaker and amp kits. Of course, that is a branded amp and speakers by Harley Davidson. Of course, they don't make it. It's OEM. I shouldn't say OEM, but it's their product with their label, but obviously somebody else is making it for them. And the way we understand it, it is MTX. That is per Big Daddy, who's done some research in it. MTX is making and branding that the Boom audio system, Stage 1 and Stage 2. Of course, the Boom box itself is branded. It's Harman Kardon and branded by Harley, but very, very proprietary. And a lot of guys, it says Harley on it, and they hear it in the dealership. They hear it on the wall. We're going to talk a little bit about that. So they're very interested and say, hey, do you guys have a video on an install? We know you have the Hogtunes and we know you're working on other stuff, but do you have a video? Because it is complicated without a video. It's complicated if you're reading the Harley instructions. Even Big Daddy is very, very educated on this stuff. Now that he's done it, totally makes sense. And if we put it in a video format for you guys, totally makes sense. It's so much easier just to see people do it on video and show you the plugs and show you where to plug stuff than to try to read those ridiculous instructions that nobody who owns a Harley wants to read and try to make sense of those. Plug 587 and plug 526 goes to 183 and over here and blah, blah, blah. Doesn't make any sense. We made sense of it. And so a lot of people are asking for that video. They're asking us a lot of questions. Is it worth it? Is it worth the money? Of course, it's way overpriced, guys, for what it is. But nonetheless, we're not bad talking that system, and there is big interest in the law-abiding biker community for that system. So we are going to acquire one. We're working on that right now. Of course, this is all takes us money, guys, and trust me, we wouldn't be getting these systems if it weren't to help you guys, because honestly, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of behind the scenes. It's a lot of video. It's a lot of editing, all that kind of stuff. We're not complaining, but this is exactly where we get a ton of requests. We want to do something. We're not all getting Boom Stage 2 audio systems on our bikes. We simply can't afford that. That's not what this venture is about, guys. You know that about us. We're very, very open and honest and transparent, but we're hoping to afford at least one system. And of course, that is due to donations and patrons, big time, dude, or guys, I should say, dude. you know, those funds are what make it so we can do this type of stuff and at least get, hopefully, and of course still some out of pocket, guys, but it helps the burden of that so we can do this stuff for you guys and we can report on it and figure out what's going on, you know, because Harley, of course, isn't going to give anything. Some of the other aftermarket companies will work with us on giving it to us and or, you know, big discounts and stuff like that because we're reviewing it and doing things. But obviously Harley and their huge monopoly are not going to do that for us. So that's where the patrons come in. It gives us an idea of where we can go. And so we are going to eventually acquire one of those. We will be doing a video and we will get that out to you guys when it's done, a complete install video on the Harley Stage 2 is what we're going to do. And you'll understand why when you listen to the blab that Rick and I did. So anyways, I'm not going to bore you, but I at least wanted to give an opening and so you guys understand everything you need to know about the Boom Audio Stage 1 and Stage 2 systems that you're seeing up on boards in the dealership and whether it's worth it and all the tech behind it and whether you should get the Stage 1 and whether you should get the Stage 2 and some of the problems. And we're talking about flashes and dealer downloads and proprietary software and all kinds of craziness in here. But even if you're not interested in the Boom Stage 1 or 2 itself, if you're interested at all in Harley-Davidson aftermarket audio systems, there's a bunch of really good content in here. And there's going to be evergreen content in here and things that you can use and tips and tricks and things you might want to look for. So it's really for everybody that's at all even remotely interested in aftermarket audio systems for Harley-Davidson motorcycles. So with that, let's get into this blab, huh?
Doing a little bit of research, and I'll tell you, I bought my bike in August of 2014 down in Las Vegas, down on a trip, and I started looking on the day that I bought it. And at that time, down there, the dealer told me, you better hold off on this. It's all brand new to us. Unless it's coming from the dealer already installed, we're still kind of shaky on this, so just kind of hold off on it. So I didn't buy anything when I was down there because, of course, you saw the Screaming Eagles coming out with the saddlebag speakers and all this. And I was thinking I wanted some saddlebag speakers because my Ultra Limited has the twin cooled. So down in the lowers, I couldn't put speakers down there. So I held off for a good year. And you and I were talking a while back, and you were looking at the Hog tunes and stuff. And so I finally, if people don't know, you can go to the dealer now and they have a wall system that you can listen to the Stage 1 speakers by themselves. You can listen to stock speakers, and then you can listen to the Stage 1 no amp, with amp, and then Stage 2 with amp. And I will tell you, I've talked to several techs, I've talked to several parts people, and they're all confused, just like I was confused. And unless you got a big dealership that's installing these a lot, you are going to come across some confusion. Now, in the new 2016 catalog, they do a lot better job of spelling out what you're going to need. But this trial by fire for me, really, I learned quite a bit. So I started with the Stage 1, and there's several different parameters that you can go with.
Hey, real quick, Rick, just for anybody watching, if you go to lawabidingbiker.com/boom audio kits, I did a blog and it shows you that wall system. I took a picture of it and kind of the different phases that we're talking about. So I'll just give people something to reference. Go ahead.
Yeah. So let's start at the very beginning of what I found out. You know, before 2014, one of the best upgrades you can do, and of course Lab has a video on this, was just changing out your stock speakers. My 2010, and I know Scrappy on your 2011, did you have?
Yeah, I had a 2011 Street Glide. Yeah, back before I got the 14. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one of the best upgrades you could do was get in the upgraded speakers and no amp. I mean, that was a great upgrade back then. And so,
and those were just for reference, those were just the Boom. What do they call them? Boom Audio or Boom? I got them. They were just 6-inch or something, or?
Yeah, they were just Boom Audio upgraded speakers.
That's
that
right.
You could just put in. They were a great upgrade. And so when, of course, Harley doesn't really advertise them as that now. I mean, they're really pushing out the amp. But so when I first started looking, when I went forward, the first thing I looked at was just upgrading the speakers. And my system has the 4 speakers. So I thought, well, maybe I'll just look at upgrading the 4 speakers, which currently the Street Guides and the Ultras, when you upgrade, you're basically going to a 6.5 speaker from the 5s. So you are getting a bigger speaker, but it's really not that much bigger. I mean, but it is big enough to where you actually have to take out the stock speaker grill and go to the new speaker grill in order for the new speaker to fit.
And for which one is this for?
The Stage 1 speakers are bigger than the stock speakers.
that's I didn't know that. Okay. So they are, and they still, even though they're bigger, because I put aftermarket speakers and I took out the speaker boxes and the fairing and all that. How do they fit in there if they're bigger? Are they screwing in, or is that compartment?
Stage 1 speakers. Yeah, the Stage 1 speakers, you have to use those Stage 1 grills in the front fairing. So
okay.
if you look at the catalog, they'll tell you it allows you to go from to the 6.5 inch speaker.
So the speaker cabinet in the fairing will fit those.
Yeah, for the Stage 2 and stuff like that. So they actually put a whole new mounting that mounts to the inner fairing, and then the speaker then mounts to that, and it has a whole new mounting system.
Okay. So hang on, I'm just make sure I'm tracking. Is it a new speaker box that they have the big white plastic speaker box? Does it the speaker?
No. It's actually it's a whole new grill system.
Yeah, I get it. I get the grill's bigger that covers a speaker. What I'm trying to key in on is if you've got a speaker box and it's in the back of the fairing and it comes with 6-inch stock speakers, and you're taking a Boom audio speaker now, Stage 1 or Stage 2, and you're putting it in there and it's bigger, how does it fit in that hole if it's not?
It's an adapter ring. There's an adapter ring that goes in there, and then it allows it to fit.
Gotcha. That's what I couldn't wrap my head around. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So the first thing I looked at was maybe I'll just replace the speakers. Just put the Stage 1 speakers in there and see if I can get an upgraded sound, because the Stage 1 speaker does have an independent tweeter. And so I thought about that, and that's what I'm actually running right now, but we'll get to that at the end of this conversation. So then the next step I looked at was after they came out with the listening board was, do I want to go to the Stage 1 or the Stage 2? Well, I will tell you, as this story progresses, the Stage 2 is not as simple as you think it is. And from a lot of the information, the emails that I've read, you can't just go from Stage 1 to Stage 2. So this is why it's important for the listeners. If you really want to go Stage 2, you need to start at ground level and go that route. But I went with Stage 1.
Okay, go ahead.
I actually went with Stage 1 and bought the Stage 1 kit, which the Stage 1 kit, there are 2 variations of it. You can either get the Street Glide version, which will also work in the Ultras and the Classics. And that's 2 speakers for the front fairing and the amp. The amp is a 4-channel amp times 75. On the Street Glides and the Classics, they basically use the 2 channels for the front, and they leave the 2 channels for the rear unobligated, in case later on they actually give you a harness for the rear that you run to the back. Even if you don't have a trunk speakers like the Ultra, there's what they call a jumper that later on, if you want to add saddlebag speakers, you can easily tie into those. So that's very important. A lot of people say, well, I'll just buy I'm just going to buy the Street Glide version. Well, they do have that rear speaker harness included in that. And the thing that's nice about that is if you buy the $800 lid piece and then have it painted and then buy the grills and speakers, you can still do that tie into that.
Okay, so on the harness, again, just so I'm tracking, so you want to make sure when you're getting it, there's a separate, is it separate harness that you run from up front to back that you need to pay attention to so that you have the option of adding lid speakers later? Am I tracking?
The two kits, the only difference between the Street Glide / Ultra Classic kit and the Ultra kit is that the Ultra kit is $200 more because it includes 4 speakers instead of 2. The actual amplifier and the wiring harnesses are the same. The Street Glide kit is $799 and the Ultra kit is $999.
Okay, bring your mic down just a little bit so you're in the top of it. There you go.
Okay. So when you get that kit, the Stage 1 kit, you're getting everything you need. You already have the harness for the front that basically wires the amp into the Boom Audio. It has that harness also is what ties into your front speakers. That harness, power harness, then goes to your battery. And then there's also what they call the rear speaker harness that you run along that wire trough
underneath the tank.
Yeah, you can either lift the tank a little bit and fish pull it like I did, or you can take the tank off, and then you can actually take that wire trough cover off, and then you can run it underneath the wire trough.
Yeah, we have a free video on tank removal, guys. Go to lawabidingbiker.com and just search for tank removal. You'll find it.
Yeah, in that rear speaker wire harness, if you have the 4-speaker system like I do with the Ultra, that's what you tie into the 2 rear speakers. And then it still has the jump off for the saddlebags if you're going to eventually put those in. So it is a nice little setup. It's rather expensive, but it's a nice little setup that if eventually you want to add the saddlebag speakers, all you have to do at that point after that is buy an additional amp and then buy the speaker lids and the speakers, etc.
Okay, but you've got an Ultra, so obviously you bought the full meal deal, the front wiring harness and then the rear for your rear speakers. And then you're saying it has a jump off so you can do the lid speakers. Let's say a guy like me, a lot of the audience has maybe Street Glides. So if they just have a Street Glide, what's your suggestion? Just get the amp and front speakers, or should they, and then they can add the rear kit later if they want to do lid speakers, or should they get that harness and install it and have it ready?
No, what they want to do is get the 2-speaker Stage 1 kit. If they're only going to do Stage 1, they just want to get the 2-speaker kit, because what they'll do is they'll install that amp. They'll use the 2 channels for the 2 fairing speakers. They'll go ahead and run the rear harness, and then they'll just leave that rear harness underneath their seat. And then if they ever do decide to install saddlebag speakers, they'll already have the harness there and the jump offs.
Okay. I'm mostly tracking. You know I'm slow, so work with me here. I totally get that part. What would be the disadvantage to, and you're talking Stage 1 still, right? Amp and speakers.
Yes.
Okay. And what if they didn't run the rear wire harness? Is it going to matter if they're just going to run the front speakers?
Well, then they could never add saddlebags, or if they ever decided to, they'd have to run the wire later.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Okay, so there is the option.
You might as well run it. You might as well run it, Scrappy, because you're already going to have the tank off to run the power wire. So you might as well run that rear harness anyhow. And then that way you always have the option, if you want to add saddlebag speakers, you've already got the rear speaker harness there. Or if you add a removable trunk, you can always add the rear speaker pods to your trunk.
I gotcha.
So it does give you a lot of different options there by running that rear speaker harness. But understand that when you install it, even if you install it yourself, which you can, you just want to make sure you don't turn it on until you go to the dealer and you have them do the dealer software download. But every time you change the way that you're doing that system, you're going to have the dealer do a new download. And that's where Harley has done a good job of keeping this proprietary.
Yeah.
And,
I don't know if it's a good job, issue. But
well, and I'll tell you, after doing some research with another company this week, they're going even further to try and keep it even more to where they're going to try and keep the sound volumes to the point to where, this is obviously if you can believe it, but they want to keep the sound volumes to the point to where aftermarket guys will have a harder and harder time overriding. They want to really keep you into their Harley sound systems. But, the thing is that if you buy Street Glide and you buy this system and you install the 2 speakers, you install the amp, the thing that's nice about the Harley system is it is all plug and play. And I will tell you that you are going to feel overwhelmed. When you take that fairing off and you see all these wires and you see this harness, you're going to feel overwhelmed at first because you're going to be like, there's like 5 plugins. What am I doing? And the instructions are just like everything. And that's why law-abiding biker always says, when you look at these instructions, but trust me, when we get one of these done, you'll want to buy the video because it will make a lot more sense. And I've done it, and it'll be a lot easier just watching the video and plug and playing because it is really easy because it's all plug and play. But once you run it and it's there, the saddlebag thing that's going to be interesting is that you will have to buy an additional amp, and those amps aren't cheap. They're $599 a piece. So those are the things you need to consider. If you're just going to do the Street Glide, and that was your question, Ryan, buy the 2 speaker with the amp system, run the rear harness, and then save up and buy yourself another amp, and then the saddlebag covers and the speakers. You can do that, or buy them all at once if you're going to do it all at once. I mean, that's really what you got to decide with the Stage 1.
Right, and you brought up some good points, Big Daddy, is, yeah, guys, we've been, obviously, I did the HogTunes system. You can go to lawabidingbiker.com/HogTunes. There's an install video there. It will save you a lot of time because, like Big Daddy says, it seems like it should be easy, but it's not. Like he says, when you get in there and you're not sure of what goes where, I'm telling you, a video and a hands-on, instruction makes it, you watch the video, like, actually, that's pretty simple, but it doesn't make sense if you just dive in there, and especially with the Boom, the Harley Davidson Boom Stage 1 and 2 kits. And we have obviously had, which is why we're doing this episode right here and why we're on Blab and all that and Periscope right now, is we've had a ton of people asking about specifically the Boom, and people love the HogTunes one too. That's a great system. And they're loving that. It's a lot cheaper, about half the price. And a lot of people are asking about this. And so, yes, we are going to do a video eventually when we acquire a complete Boom audio system. We'll talk a little bit later about some kind of what we're waiting for on that, but we will be doing it. And then Big Daddy is in contact. We're in contact with 2 other companies. Lurch is in contact with one other aftermarket stereo company, and then Big Daddy is. We're not going to mention those right now because we're trying to work something out with them to see what we can do about doing some install videos and stuff for you guys. But we will. So keep checking back. Eventually, we will do the Harley system, depending on which direction they go, which we will talk about at the end. So, all right, dude, why don't you pick up from there?
Okay. The other thing that you got to consider with these, the Stage 1, is that once you go down this road of Stage 1,
what is the Stage 1 specifically, though? I know it's the amp speakers.
Well, the amp is the same for the Stage 1 and the Stage 2.
Okay.
The difference is the dealer download telling the Boom Audio in the computer where to send the signals and how to distribute those signals, and the speakers.
Right, but the Phase 1 What I'm saying is there's the phase 1 and phase 2. They both come with amp and speakers. The phase 1 speakers are just 2-way, and the phase 2 or 3-way. Make that easy for everybody.
Yeah, the stage 1 speakers are a 2-way speaker with a woofer and a tweeter. The stage 2 speakers are a 3-way with a woofer, a mid-range, and a tweeter. And in particular, the stage 2s also have a crossover system in them. So they distribute, the stage 2s distribute the sound kind of like you would see like in a, the best way to put it is like in the home stereo. If you bought like a home stereo speaker, a lot of times a high quality home stereo speaker, they'll have a built-in crossover in the back that will send the bass to your woofer, the mid ranges to your mid, and the highs to your tweet. That's the way the stage 2s work. The other thing with the stage 2s is that the amplifier takes one amplifier only works 2 channels. So to give you an idea, the listeners an idea, if you have a 4-channel amplifier in a stage 1, the amplifier will power 4 speakers. So stage 1, the amplifier will power all 4 speakers on a Harley Davidson Ultra Limited, the 2 fairings and the 2 trunk speakers. In a stage 2 on an Ultra Limited, you would need 2 amps. There would be the amp underneath the fairing, which would power, there would be 2 channels to the left speaker, 2 channels to the right speaker. Then you would have another amp to the trunk, and that would be the same thing. So those speakers actually require 2 channels, 1 channel to the woofer, 1 channel to the mid and tweet. That's why they sound so good, and that's why they're much more powerful.
Gotcha. Thank you. That brings it for me, because I'm not a huge stereo guy, techie guy, obviously, but when it comes to this, man, that helped a lot me visualize that. So thanks. It's called a braingasm.
Well, it was kind of interesting when, how I found this out and is I had the stage 1, and I called up the dealer and I said, I want to switch out my front speakers to stage 2. Is it an easy switch out? And the parts guy said, oh yeah, it's an easy switch out. He was looking at the 2015 catalog.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was on the phone with you, and I was there for 4 hours after they agreed to, I was getting new tires put on. Usually I do my own work. I was getting new tires put on because it was a free tire install. Ryan knows this.
Yeah.
And so as long as I was there, they said, hey, if you buy these speakers, we'll put the speakers in for $50. And I said, well, the bike's already in here for free tires. I'll pay them $50 and they can put the front speakers in. It will only take an hour, they said. 4 hours later, they had it took 4 hours because they put the speakers in and found out that they couldn't do it because of this amp issue. So trust me, you guys are learning something that I had to learn 4 hours of waiting. So even when you think you're getting a good deal, say $50 is a good deal to have them install the speakers for you. Trust it, because it is, but you can do it yourself. But the interesting thing is that they didn't even realize that the amp with those speakers, they won't work. But in the 2016 catalog, if you look, there is now a footnote in there that says stage 2 will not work with stage 1. If stage 1 is installed, stage 2 won't work. The reason is because once your stage 1 is installed, you can't just put stage 2 speakers in. Now, there is a caveat to that.
Why would be what some are asking, and you can get to it however you want to do that.
Well, because you'll lose your rear speakers. You have to add another amp.
Right.
See, and plus you have to do a new dealer download. A lot of people think that once you have the stage 1, you have the radio down. Let's say you put in the stage 1, you put in the 2 street glide. Let's just do street glide. So you put in the amp, you put in the two front speakers, and you put in the dealer download.
Guys, real quick, please stay with me. I don't want to lose you. Just a quick interruption in the show, guys. Some donations. I really want to thank these people, guys, and we'll get right back into the show. Robert Smith of Greeley, Colorado. Thank you so much. Todd Vogler of Eastlake, Ohio. Thank you, guys. lawabidingbiker.com/donate. If you can't become a patron and you can only give a flat donation, of course, we accept those too. And it really helps put a little fuel in the law-abiding biker gas tank so we can keep this show going on down the road. John Stevens of Kenosha, Wisconsin, guys. Patron. He's a patron, and he gave a large flat donation. Man, that is taking action, guys. That is what the law-abiding biker community is all about, to help this platform get the message out to bikers all over the world, guys. And he did that. John Stevens is one that met us up in Sturgis. He was a patron. He did the private meetup, rode with us, rode with LD a lot further than Sturgis. And anyways, and he did it right after the Sturgis patron meetup. So John Stevens, God bless. Definitely, guys, we appreciate each and every one of you. Again, lawabidingbiker.com/donate. Let's get back right into the content.
There are guys that are going and buying Stage 2 speakers for $300, and they're putting the speakers in, and they're thinking that it's going to work, and it's not, because the speakers take the 2 channels instead of the 4 channels. They take the 2 channels, but they don't have the proper download.
So they can fix that though, just with a download.
They could fix it with the download, but the other issue is that with the Ultra Limited, you have to have another amp. So what they're saying is for the Stage 2, you just build it from scratch. Because so if you're going to do Stage 2, they called the master tech at the factory, at the customer service deal, and he says, we're telling people, if you're going to do Stage 2, just do it from the beginning. And now Harley Davidson has actually come out with a list. And if you look in your 2016 catalog, they actually have in the back, you can look in the back of the catalog by model of your bike, and it'll tell you everything that you need for Stage 2. If you just want Stage 1, it's just like the 2015 catalog. It will show the picture of it. It'll list the part number. It'll give you a description of everything. But if you want Stage 2, when you look at that catalog, it'll list you everything. It will show the amp. It will show the speakers. It will show the harness. It breaks everything down individually. Because people were going and buying Stage 1s, and then they were going around exactly what the parts guy told me. Yeah, just replace the speakers. Well, I could have turned around, left those speakers in, but I would have lost my rear speakers. Well, what happens in 3 years when I want to go sell my bike, and some guy wants an Ultra, he wants rear speakers, right? Now my rear speakers don't work. But I could have spent $600 more, bought another amp, and then turned around and had the rear speakers, but then I would have had to bought Stage 2 speakers. So now I'm into it another $1,000 for an amp and more Stage 2 speakers. So it wasn't worth it. So that's why I want the listeners to be very clear. Decide beforehand. What do you want to do? Do you want to go Stage 1? Do you want to go full on Stage 2 like the Screaming Eagle Harley Davidson CVOs? Because that's what they're running. If that's the sound you want, start from scratch, but be prepared because it's big money.
Yeah, what are we talking here, dude? For an Ultra Limited for 4 speakers, 2 amps, harnesses, for you're just a guesstimate.
Well, the amps are $599 a piece.
That's crazy, dude.
The Stage 2 speakers are, I think they're $399 a piece.
All I know for a Stage 2, for my Street Glide, if I were to do a Stage 2 speakers and amp, that's like $1,100 just for the wire harness, the amp, and the 2 front speakers. So I can imagine at least another $1,100 for the rear speakers, rear harness, and amp.
Yeah, and you start doing saddlebags. Oh. You get a primered saddlebag, and then the 6x9 speakers. It gets very expensive. They told me, I called Las Vegas Harley Davidson a couple weeks ago to ask them, and they had a guy that spent almost $4,000 doing a full setup on his.
That's
his deal.
crazy.
Yeah. So, but I did the stage 1, and at the end of the day, I wasn't super impressed with it. But I'll tell you, it did the job, but I wasn't super impressed with it. So I ended up taking the amplifier out.
Let's talk before we do that. So you had the stage 1, and we're going to talk about why you weren't happy with it. So we'll pick back up there in a sec. What I want to know is, or I think we've kind of glazed over a little bit, is the dealer downloads, because we've just in a broad sense mentioned that. And so I'm going to break that down for the listeners a little bit. So with the Boom audio system, the Boombox infotainment system, like Rick said early on, Harley's just honestly raping people, because they've got a very proprietary type system. And so with the Boombox, this is how great it is. If you do the Boom Audio Phase 1 speaker and amp upgrade, or the Phase 2 speaker and amp upgrade, either way, you get to not only purchase that speaker and amp kit, which is worth half of what they're selling it for because it's branded Harley Davidson. Once you get it installed, then you get to pay the dealership another, depending on the dealership, $50 to $75 to have them do what's called a flash, or you'll hear like Rick called it a dealer download. And really all it is proprietary software that only Harley Davidson has. Nobody else can get their hands on it. And that allows them to go into settings within that Boombox system that we can't access. I can access a lot of settings on the Boombox system, but without that dealer download or flash, you can't get into those settings. And so what they do is, with that proprietary software, hook it up to a laptop, and they can go in and they can tell the Boombox how to act depending on what kind of amp and what kind of speaker setup it has. And you do have to do it, or it's not going to, your new Boom Audio Stage 1 or Stage 2 is not going to work. And so you get to pay them $50 to $75 every time you want that done. Or like Rick says, if you do decide to go from Phase 1 or Stage 1 to Stage 2, then you get to pay them another $75 or whatever it is for the dealer download. And so they got you coming and going. And that's, Rick alluded to it a little bit earlier, is that's why you kind of want to obviously make sure what you want to do right away, as far as, Stage 1 or Stage 2 and that kind of stuff. And he alluded to the fact that that's why it's hard for some of these aftermarket companies. They're all doing it a different way. Hog Tunes is getting around it. You don't even have to have it flashed, but that's something that they're doing in their amp, really to get the best sound. It's and we're testing, so I won't even say that. We're testing another system. We won't say the name, but they're getting around it too, right? Without having to,
Yep.
Or do you have to do a download with them?
No download.
Okay. There's another company we're working with, and they do it. They do the amp and speakers, but then you have to go to a Harley dealer and have the dealer download. So they're actually building it kind of like the Harley system, and then they have instructions for the dealership. You just take it with when you get the kit, and you take the little instructions, and it tells the Harley dealer, hey, set the system to these settings for this setup. It comes with there. I think you know what company I'm talking about too. The one Lurch is working on. So,
yeah.
All right. So hopefully that gives you guys an idea of what we're talking about when we talk about flashing or dealer downloads. And yes, it's proprietary, and no, nobody else has it. And Harley Davidson is definitely not going to give access to that, because what a money-making machine. So tell me, how long does it take them to flash this ridiculous thing?
Well, I didn't see them. It was pretty quick. I mean, they're just plugging it in and going. But they told me at the local dealership here, if you pay for the install, they're not charging anything extra for the flash. But if you're going in and they have to set it up and do it, there is a charge. So I mean, obviously, if you're paying them for the install of the system, I think they're including that.
Well, yeah, but that's all semantics. They're
dealership. Yeah,
they're putting it in there. They're however they want to say it's part of the. You're paying for it.
Yeah, and the thing is here is that, with the stage 1, I mean, they're basically telling the computer, shut off the 25 watts per channel times 4. That's all it is. They're basically telling, because
that's how the boom box is.
Yeah, the stock boom box is 25 watts times 4.
Okay, thank you.
So what it's doing is the stock. So when you go in and you switch to, let's say you buy the stage 1, when they do that download, that's why they tell you if you do it yourself, don't turn the radio on, because if you do, you're going to overpower it and you can blow out the speakers, because now instead of having 75 watts times 4, you have 100 watts times 4. So when you do that download from the dealer, it shuts off the internal amplifier on the stereo. And then it also adds fader control, a different fader control. So anybody who has a Street Glide Classic or Ultra Limited now, you'll know that if you go into your fader and it's stock, you go into your settings, all you have is a bar similar to your bass and treble line that just goes front to rear. The little hash marks that kind of move left to right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When you get the stage 1 download, it actually becomes more animated, and it becomes kind of like a grid system for the fader.
Yeah, I saw that down in Sturgis.
Yeah, so it looks different. So the only things that I could tell the difference in the stage 1 downloads was it shuts down the internal amplifier, and it changed the fader system. The fade looked different.
I saw down there with once they do the download, they had in Sturgis this year at the Harley booth, they had an Ultra with a stage 2 4 and lid speakers and everything, and they could go in and the other company had it too, but it looked like the bike. It was a picture of the bike, and you could move things around the bike did you see that? They could literally, they had a picture of a bike, and they could move, like fade it to the back, and they could take and touch it and move it, and it would kind of towards the rear of the bike, and that would fade it towards the rear and stuff. It was cool.
Yeah. That was at the stage 2 or the stage 1?
No, it was a stage 2.
Yeah, see, mine was the stage 1, so
That's
it just allowed like an animated graphic, and but see, I started out originally with the speakers alone, and I thought that was an upgrade, and then I bought the amp, and so I had the kit, but yeah, I mean, there is the download, and it's good, and they did the download, and so it worked.
Okay.
But I eventually, like I said, I took the amp out. So I don't know when you want to get into that and why.
Let's that I just wanted to cover dealer downloads just so people weren't confused. So you ran the stage 1 with the front speakers and your rear, right?
Yes.
Okay. And did you replace your rears, or did you use the stock speakers?
I replaced the rears.
That's right.
I did the front and then the rears.
Okay. And so you're running stage 1, which means if you've educated me properly, stage 1, he replaced his front fairing speakers, his trunk speakers back where the passenger sits, and he was able to run 1 amp, and it was mounted up in the fairing, and that 1 amp ran all 4 stage 1 speakers.
Yeah, 75 watts
right there.
Channel.
You educated me, see? Or either that or I was paying attention, one of the two. So, all right, go from there. So you ran the system. You didn't like it, or what?
I ran the system. Well, before, when I did a lot of research on this thing, and if you look at HarleyDavidson.com and the early issuance of this system, there was a lot of negative feedback on Harley.com regarding the system.
There still is.
But a lot of, it's gotten better, and it seemed like a lot of it was around the Boom software downloads. And you and I have had this conversation that Harley and their software downloads continually tries to improve the downloads as far as the sound volume and sound equalization and stuff like that. There's hidden stuff in there that we'll never know that every time they do a download. And people were complaining about the sound didn't sound right, etc. When I first got the system, it was noticeably louder. When you read the paragraph in the book, it talks about much fuller sound, louder. And when you think 25 to 75 watts, you're thinking that that's quite a bit.
Jumping from 25 to 75 watts.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll tell you, my first impression was, okay, yeah, this sounds nicer. But after I had it for 3 weeks, I didn't think it was worth the money. I didn't think it was worth as much as I spent for all the money that I invested in it. $1,000. I don't think I got my dollar's worth out of it. There's little things. I mean, yes, it's louder, but I couldn't turn the volume past halfway, or it would become distorted. I had to turn my bass all the way down. Running stock, just stock speakers, I could run my bass. And yes, I understand. The first thing when you tell a dealer this, they're going to tell you it's a motorcycle. There's not supposed to be bass. Yeah, I get that. It's a 6-inch speaker. I get that. However, when I'm running 25 watts with a stock speaker and I can leave the bass at neutral and have a full sound, and then you add an extra 50 watts, and I have to turn the bass from neutral down to -3. And I'm not talking like down just 3 bars, and maybe I'm not visualizing this right. Picture taking your bass all the way to where there is no bars period and then adding 3 bars back.
That's crazy.
It was almost like the amp was too powerful for the speakers. And it wasn't just the bass, it was everything. It was the kick drum. It was and I'm not listening to rap music. I'm listening to country,
whatever,
maybe some classic rock. I have an XM radio in my on my bike. So it was just way too much. I wanted more full sound. So basically the mids were good, the tweets were good, but for $1,000, I would expect that I should be able to turn it up more than half. Now, was the half louder than the half without the amp? Absolutely. But I have heard systems now that with Stage 2 that are a lot more full sounding, a lot better sounding. And so that's why before I took my amp out, I considered going to the Stage 2, which was the debacle that we started to lead to, and then we stayed on the Stage 1 topic. So that's why I was literally committed to going to the Stage 2 at one point, because it is so much fuller sounding, but that's a whole nother deal. But which led to just taking the amp out and starting for a new product.
Yeah, and I do want to hold that thought. And so I want to talk about the Boom Audio in-store displays, guys. So you'll go to your Harley Davidson dealership, a lot of them, and they have the big board, and they've got the different buttons, and you can try phase 1, and you can push the button and try stage 1 and stage 2. I keep calling it phase, but stage 1, stage 2. You can test all these different systems. You can test it with the amp and without the amp and all that. And I will tell you, that misleads people, because that board sounds really freaking awesome, and it sounds good, and you can get the bass. Okay, that's not the same that it sounds on a bike. I'll just tell you that I was in Sturgis in the Harley booth, and they had it, and I listened to a couple different systems. It sounds good, but it is nothing near what that sounds. Plus, that's indoors, and then you take a bike outdoors. Are you in agreement with that?
Yeah, and plus in the system, in the deal, it's in a enclosure that's got a deep enclosure.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, I'll tell you. I mean,
That's
on
misleading.
my Ultra Limited, my rear speakers sound phenomenal. But you got to remember, on the Ultra Limited, the rear speakers, they're ported into the trunk, so it's almost like I have this big. I mean, my rear speakers sound fantastic, and so the front variant speakers don't have much of a port enclosure. But I'll tell you, if you're Joe Blow and you're looking to upgrade your speaker because you just want it a little bit louder because you do a lot of touring, don't be afraid to buy the Stage 1. Okay? Don't be afraid of it. It did make it louder. It did add some fuller sound. I'm just saying, for me, it wasn't what I was looking for. That's all I'm saying. It's for me, for the money, I think I was looking for something a little bit different. When I tested it in the showroom and I heard it on some bikes sitting stationary, I thought it was the cat's meow.
Yeah.
And then when I got it out and rode 5,530 miles in 6.5 days, stuff got real. I mean, you guys got real. We ride. I mean, I know some of you probably ride, but I mean, if you listen to our podcast, I mean, you know that we ride. I mean, Law Dog and I, we went to Pittsburgh and back. And when you're doing 5,530 miles and all you have to do is listen to the radio, you start nitpicking little things about your radio and the sound, and you're listening to different kinds of music, and you're wondering why the kick drum on this particular type of music is distorting, and why is one bar doing this? Or, I mean, literally, 923 miles in one day, and you're testing the bass levels because you're bored and you got to find something to do.
Yeah.
So that was a real test for me. And so, but if you're just the guy that does a couple 300-mile rides throughout the year and some 10 200s or whatever, the system will work fine for you. And it is there's some advantages to it, Scrappy, because I mean, think about it. It is plug and play.
Right.
It is plug and play, and the harness is no different than anybody who's worked on a car. If anybody's worked on a car and done fuel injections, a fuel injection harness, it's basically the same thing. So it is easy for you guys to do. Just got to make sure that you don't turn it on until you get to the dealer and get that download. So I can see where
don't turn it on. What if somebody does turn it on?
Well, you could overpower it and blow the speakers out.
Okay, that's what I want to get out there
until you get that download, because and that's right in the directions. I mean, you don't if the dealer's not doing the install, you can't turn it on until you get the download done.
Okay, good to know. What about the phase or the Stage 1? If you say there's a guy that just wants a little more sound, can't he just do the Stage 1 speakers and no amp at all and just run it straight off the boombox, plug them in and go?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now.
See, yeah.
That's what I'm doing right now. I took the amp out and I have a little bit richer sound. I do notice a difference
without
obviously.
The amp.
Yeah, I notice a difference without the amp. But now my bass is at mid-level instead of all the way down. But the advantage to having those Stage 1 speakers is that now I have that tweeter. So I actually do have better highs than the stock speakers. Also, the other advantage, and you guys might laugh at this, but the covers not only look better, the speaker grills not only look better, but I think they're more protective. Anybody here who has a Ultra, you know that if you have a passenger on the back, it only takes an elbow to punch in those soft cloth covers, and they're the same ones that are up on the fairing on the stock speaker grills. And so when I turned around and put those Stage 1 speakers in, the first thing Cindy told me was, "Thank God you put those in. I've been worried about knocking in those cloth speaker grills and ruining your speakers since you bought this thing," because she had done that. She had hit them before on another bike that I'd had. So the Stage 1 speakers, they are nice in that you get the new steel speaker grill. And so there is some more protection there, and they do look good. You can actually look into your grill and you can look through the grill and see the speaker, and I think they look a little nicer and they give you more protection. But they do sound a little bit better because of that tweet.
Yeah,
there's some good aftermarket options too.
There is, and yeah, you're right. And we're going to do.
You say the hog tunes sound good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is, and we have done the hog tunes. Like I say, guys, lawabidingbiker.com/hog tunes, and that's a good system too, half the price. And we're testing some other stuff too, just to put our feelers out there and get the information to you guys. But it takes time and it takes money, and to try to acquire these systems, and then we try to work with the companies so we can have their input and some things like that. But so basically, what Rick, if I have it right, is it's give or take with the Stage 1 or the as far as whether you put the amp or not. Pretty good sound without the amp, and I found that too with some aftermarket systems. Is it sounds good with the amp and it's loud, but you can still only turn it up a little over halfway because the amp's overpowering the speakers, and then you pull the amp and just run the speakers off the Boom audio system, and it actually sounds just as loud. You just have to turn it up more, but at least you can turn it up all the way without it distorting. So it's kind of give or take. A little more bass with the amp sometimes, but again, how much bass are you going to get out of that? I noticed the speakers moving more, but I don't know. It's an interesting situation with the Boom system and all this amp stuff.
Yeah, to give you an idea, I could never get my Stage 1 with the amp installed over half. I could never get it over half volume. I could get maybe one mark over half, and then over that it would distort. I mean, it just, whether it was drums or whatever. Now, just running Boom Stage 1 speakers off of the Boom stock, I can get the same amount of volume, but it's 3/4 up instead of half.
Hang on. Somebody on Periscope is saying, and it's a good question. I could only monitor Periscope a little bit. We're actually on Blab IM, guys, where we're chatting, but he says it sounds like the speaker gain was up too high. Address that.
Well, I can't, because it's done through the dealer
right.
download. So I asked them when they did the dealer download, they do it exactly, they program it as it is. So when I first had the issue and I thought it was a little loud like that, I asked them to double check it, and they plugged it in and they said, yeah, it's set for Stage 1.
Yep. And that's the problem, guys.
Unless if he's a Harley tech and he knows something that I don't, that they can actually do some adjustments for that. That'd be great to know. Maybe he can share that with us and we can relay that to our listeners. But the master tech at this dealership said that when they do the download, they're basically telling it what is the system, what are they putting into it, which in this case is simply Stage 1, the Stage 1 with the amplifier, 4 speakers. And so that's what it does. And I know another guy who has the same deal, and he says it's the same thing. He said, but it's kind of interesting. I mean, it's, you what am I going to do? Argue with them about it? Like, hey, I think this sounds like junk, when it's over this, I can't add any bass. Oh, well, but they double checked it, and they said that they have the proper download in it, and it did sound good at half, but it was just, like I said, as soon as it got over that, it sounded a little distorted. But if he has some knowledge,
no, I think it was just a general question, because a lot of people have experience with car stuff, and so they just think that. I don't think it was anything other than a question. And I had the problem with the aftermarket thing too, with the amp was overpowered, and I was on with their master tech for their company, and we messed with gain. That didn't fix it at all. It's too much power for the situation where the speakers are and stuff. So,
yeah, the one thing is that I don't want people to be confused is that on a normal amplifier, like with the company I've been talking with, or a car amplifier, you do have some individual settings where you can adjust the gains and stuff. on the Harley Davidson Boom Amplifier, there is nothing to adjust. When you look at the amplifier,
Right.
it's a sealed unit. Everything is done via download to the computer, or to the boom box. So that's why, when he posed the question, the first thing I was thinking is, okay, he's thinking of a normal amp. Well, the Boom doesn't really allow that, but they may have that option within the dealer download. And so that's why I can't answer that, because when I asked them that, they said, no, we just tell it, yeah, we've installed the stage 1 amplifier, stage 1 speakers. That's how they describe literally how simple it is. When they do a stage 2, they tell it stage 2 speakers.
Right. It's already preset from the factory.
Yeah. Or stage 2, 6 speakers. If they're adding, let's say it's an Ultra with saddlebags, or it's a Street Glide CVO, or a Street Glide that you bought and you're going to add saddlebags and you're going to add lower speakers or something. You literally just tell them what to do, versus like with an amplifier for a car, you can adjust the gains and stuff like that. But with the Harley Davidson one here, there's nothing on the outside. I wish there was some way for me to show people up close where you could actually see it. Or if you go to the dealer and see go to the dealer and look at the box, the listening box, they have it right there. You'll see there's no, you can't even hook wires up to it. It's all plug and play through the harness.
Yep.
It's really quite interesting. It's nice that it's a completely sealed unit. I mean, once you plug in the terminals, it's completely sealed, and it's not like your normal amp where you got your Phillips screws where you then turn around and plug in your wire. It's nothing like that.
Yeah, good call. Good call to put that in perspective. Yeah, and I guarantee Harley, they have, like you say, basic downloads that they're not messing with. The techs can't even understand how to do this, let alone if they had to mess with, anything but, okay, this is his setup. This is what he's got, and we're going to install that. They're not going to fine tune anything. It's going to be just a basic, real easy download. So, all right. So you're moving from obviously you're done with a Boom audio for the time being. And we're exploring we have explored, of course, Hogtunes, lawabidingbiker.com/Hogtunes. And then we're going to explore some other companies, and you're just running those speakers for now.
We need to go through the stage 2.
Let's do it.
Part real quick, because the reason why this happened was because I had the full stage 1 in with the amplifier and the 4 speakers, and I talked to the parts dealer and I said, I think this amp is just too powerful for these speakers, because I get over half and it just seems like it's distorted based on the drums and stuff like that. Can I go to a stage 2 speaker in my front fairing? And the parts guy says, oh, yes. And I happen to have a set. I said, okay, great. I'll be down this weekend to have my tires changed, and I'll pick them up and I'll install them myself. So I got down there to have 2 new tires installed with a free tire install. And the guy says, hey, if you want us to install these speakers, we'll install the speakers, and it's not going to take us very long. It won't cost you much. And I'm like, well, hey, you're already there. You're already doing the deals. Let's do it. Neither the tech nor the master tech knew that you could not install stage 2 speakers onto the stage 1 speaker or stage 1 system. That's how we found out that you basically have to build the stage 2 from the ground up. So they basically, this was all trial by fire. They took the fairing off. They installed the stage 2 speakers. They were honest with me. They initially wired up the stage 2 speakers just like they did the stage 1, and they could not get the woofer to work or the tweeter to work. And so they called me to the back and they let me listen to it. And I said, well, that is a 2-channel speaker. And they said, what? I said, that's a 2-channel speaker. The stage 1 speaker is a 1-channel speaker. That's why you have 4 channels on the amp, 4 channels for 4 speakers. The stage 2 speaker is a 2-channel speaker, one to the mid and tweet, one to the woofer. So you need to run 2 channels to the left speaker to the front and 2 channels to the right. And they said, well, if that's the case, you can't run anything to the rear. But see, I didn't even know that until they told me it wouldn't work. And I opened up the book, and right in the 2016 book, it says this. It's a 2-channel book. And I said, well, it says right here, it's a 2-channel. This isn't going to work. So they called the parts guy over, and the parts guy comes running down, and he's like, yeah. And they go, you sold him this speaker saying that they were going to work, that it would just be a plug and play, just a change out. They're not going to work. He goes, yeah, they will. And so I show him the book, and I said, it says right here that it won't work on a stage 1 system. So the first thing they do is they look at me and they go, well, do you want to add another amp? Because you're going to have to add another amp to the rear speakers, and then you're going to have to add stage 2 speakers. Because once you do the download and tell the computer, the Boom Audio System, that you've gone to stage 2, if you leave the rear speakers as stage 1, it won't work properly. So that's why they say you cannot, when you ask the question, why can't you just go from stage 1 to stage 2? It's all based on the downloads. Because if you have a stage 1 and you turn around, if you have a stage 1, you can't just replace the speakers with stage 2 speakers, because 1, it's a different download, but number 2, 1 amp won't work with 4 speakers. You'll have to add another amp. And then the other thing people will try to do is they'll replace just the 2 front speakers, which in my case is what I was going to do, because I don't run the rear trunk all the time. Remember, we did the detachable kit, which we have a video on, where we removed my detachable trunk. So I was going to leave the stage 1 in the rear. Well, that's not going to work, because once you tell the computer that the 4 speakers are stage 2 speakers, it's going to treat those 2 speakers as 2-channel speakers instead of 1 channels, and they won't work correctly. So that's why I really want the listeners to know, if you're going to go stage 2, and I did hear some stage 2s there on the CBOs, and they sound fantastic.
They do sound great.
But you're going to have to do that. Just go from the get-go. Go stage 2 right from the beginning. But look in the 2016 catalog, and it will give you that list of everything you're going to need.
Yep. So let's talk about some of our things that we're a little bit sketchy about, and that is with the stage 1 and stage 2 right now. It was you that brought it to my attention that they're no longer selling certain things, or you think give me your predictions. You think Harley's had so much problems with it that they're going to recreate a different stage 3 or something, or give me your thoughts on this and why. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. If you go to harleydavidson.com, and if you pull up the stage 2 speakers, they have a note there saying no longer available online. So I don't know if they're going to be coming out with a new speaker or what. And the dealer where I bought my stage 2 said that he had the one set that he had ordered, and he said that was good because he couldn't order any more. So I don't know. I'm guessing. I mean, I don't know, but I'm guessing that they might be coming out with a new speaker for the stage 2, which would not be uncommon. I don't know that if that necessarily means that there's a problem with it, because they are in all the CVOs. Maybe they're coming out with a new and upgraded one. But the stage 1 kits, whether the 2 speaker or the 4 speakers, are in the 2016 catalog and are still available online.
Okay. Well, we'll see. They might be trying to fine tune things because they have had some problems, but I guess that's just guessing. We don't know for sure, but all right. What else? Anything else on this? We wanted to get it out there for you guys because we just have a ton of questions, and Rick has educated the heck out of me because I've been dealing with another aftermarket system that I'm pretty familiar with, but this whole Boom system is just confusing as hell to everybody, including, as you can tell, the Harley techs or the Harley mechanics. They don't. I've talked to our local dealership and they hate them because they're rather confusing when it comes to all this stuff. And the mothership HD headquarters didn't really educate the dealerships from the ground up on the boombox system itself. So it's been kind of a spiral effect.
I will tell you that the 3 techs told me The two regular techs told me that they've installed 3 stage 1 systems, and the master tech told me that they hadn't installed 1 stage 2 system yet, hadn't installed any, and that this was the first time they had seen the stage 2 speakers. And I'm not saying that as a negative thing at all. I'm just saying that they are so new and dependent on how big the dealership is, and how many systems they're doing. Just do your research, because, and then, like I said, that's not a knock for any dealership. It's, you could have the best master tech there is, but they can put a cam in, or they can put in a new set of heads, or make your 103 a 110 really easy, because that's what they're learning at UTI or MMI. But these electronics are different. And yeah, these stage 1 and stage 2 systems are plug and play as far as the harnesses and the downloads. But all 3 of these techs told me, yeah, we've only done a couple of these systems, and this is the first stage 2, and we can't figure out why this isn't working. And I'm not trying to make myself sound smart, because I'm not, but I literally just opened up the catalog and opened it up to the stage 2 speakers. And I said, hey guys, it says right here, this won't work with the stage 1 system. And they looks at me and he goes, well, that's our effing problem. And I'm like, and so they called the parts guy and they said, get your ass down here. And they said, you sold him a system that won't work. And he goes, yes, it will. And they started arguing there as my bike's on the lift. And why won't it work? And I go, because it's a 2-channel. It takes 2 channels instead of 1. It says right here. And they're like, oh yeah. And the tech looked right at me. He goes, I'm sorry, man. He goes, I don't know speaker stuff. He goes, I can make this thing go fast.
Yeah, right.
And so it's nothing. It's just, but I bet you if you go to some of these big dealerships that are installing these all the time, you'll get a right on, and it'll be done quick. So whatever you choose to do,
they've had time to, those big dealerships to do it and learn it and all that. And don't forget, guys, aside from the audio, this aftermarket or upgraded speakers and all that, just the stock boombox system that's coming on the touring models. Of course, we have the #1 best-selling Harley boombox infotainment videos, guys. Tutorial to get you up and running with this thing in a way that's not confusing for you at all. You'll totally get it. Just head over to lawabidingbiker.com/Harley boombox. There's the basic video, which will get you up and running from the system just so you can operate it and know how to set it. There's all kinds of hidden menus. Again, I make it super easy. People all over the world loving that video. I get props for it each day. And then the second one, of course, is it's also housed over there on that page. And it is the how to make sure your software within the system is up to date at all times, which it needs to be. They're coming out with new software updates, just like your smartphone. That's how they're working some of the bugs and problems out, which it still has a lot of bugs and problems, but you need to make sure it's up to date. So, and then the third one is Ride Planner, how to plan your rides online, map them out, and then get them uploaded into your boombox system so you can use the integrated GPS. Again, all housed over at lawabidingbiker.com/Harley boombox. Take one video at a time, and you'll be squared away. Then, if you feel like it later, you can get into this stereo upgrade. I would learn that stuff first, and then think about this kind of stuff. So, what else as we wrap it up here, man? This is long, but it's good because this information is just evergreen and invaluable. This will answer a shitload of emails that we're getting. Reference this. I can just refer people to this episode when it airs. Of course, this is live on Periscope and on Blab IM, and then it will come out in regular podcast format.
The only advice I got is that before you even start, decide what you want. Decide what you want, because if all you're wanting is stage 1 and that that's what you want, then buy that system. If you think what you're wanting is what you hear on those CVOs, then just go that route to begin with, the stage 2s to begin with, because once you spend that $799 or $999 for the stage 1, there's no going back. there's no going back, because now you got to turn around and toss out the speakers. You got to buy another amp. You got to buy other stuff, and do your research. Also, you may find other aftermarket stuff that you like, and hopefully we'll be able to have some stuff out pretty soon on that as well.
Yep. Stay tuned, guys, because we are, like I say, we're finished with the Hog Tunes, lawabidingbiker.com/hogtunes. It's a great system. It sounds great. It's what I'm running on my bike right now. Just an amp and front speakers. And then you can run it without the amp too if you just want the speakers. I explained that a little bit. But it's fine. It's a great system. And we're going to talk. So stay tuned, because Rick's in contact with the company. Lurch is in contact with the company. There are two other big names. Aftermarket. We just really want to test this stuff for you guys before and it takes time, because it's a big deal to install. It's a big deal to do appropriate testing. It's a big deal to, work with these companies to make sure that it's legit as far as what we're doing on our end, that we're not, that we're getting the proper sound and for their product and stuff like that. But definitely, guys, get signed up for the free email list, lawabidingbiker.com/email club. And we will shoot you an email when we come out with new free stuff like that. And once in a while, there are for purchase videos. And then again, we are live. We're going to be doing some of this blab.im, guys. It's video live. And make sure you go to our live page, lawabidingbiker.com/live. Sign up for the email list there so you know when we're going live. And also, we have the audio live over there, and then video. And there's links to everything. Periscope. We're doing some Periscope stuff now. But this blab's pretty cool because, we got two of us here. There's kind of like the Brady Bunch. There's only four. And actually, I left this seat unlocked here. I don't know if you noticed that, Rick, in case anybody else had some integral knowledge. I left that seat unlocked so they could actually join in, and they would actually later be on air on the podcast. But nobody joined that seat, and that's okay. It's a pretty in-depth subject. So, yeah, buddy, man, you're a wealth of knowledge, and I know you're going to learn even more with this new system. I can't wait. Thanks, man.
Yeah, no worries. Like I said, the best way to learn sometimes is by making the mistakes, and I had to learn from the text kind of explain things to me, and I had to learn by reading and doing a lot of blog searches. So by other people's mistakes, etc., and just decide what you want first before you buy. That's
what we do here at Law Abiding Biker Media. Flatten the learning curve for you guys. We do all the testing and installs and everything, and then put it into a package so it's super easy for bikers out there, so they're not confused and don't have to get any more gray hair. So that's what we're all about. All right, buddy. Thanks.
Yep.
Wow. What an episode, guys. Had a blast blabbing with Rick, of course. Big Daddy Kane. All right, guys, thanks for sticking with us. I know it was a lot of information, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. We got to nail it down, and then now we can refer people to this episode because we get emails all the time on this stuff, especially on this particular Boom Stage 1 and Stage 2 audio system. So, all right, guys, don't forget, call to action. Support us, guys. Don't forget, when you're purchasing motorcycle stuff, guys, anytime you're going to purchase motorcycle stuff, think of Law Abiding Biker and how you can support us without doing a thing, basically. It doesn't cost you anything. Just head over to lawabidingbiker.com/banners, BANNERS. That's our banner page, affiliate banner page. There's Motorcycle Superstore and Amazon and Revzilla and Cruiser Customizing and a whole bunch of other banners, guys. All you got to do is, just bookmark that page, lawabidingbiker.com/banners. Call it Help Lab or whatever. Amazon is over there. It doesn't matter what you order off Amazon or any of these sites, guys. Once you click through our affiliate banner, and you order something, we get a small kickback. No additional cost to you. We just get that small kickback. Helps put a little fuel in the Law Abiding Biker gas tank so we can keep on heading down the road with this thing, guys. All right, call it Lab Banners or something. Bookmark it, lawabidingbiker.com/banners. All right, guys. Don't forget also, you can get a t-shirt, guys. Get hooked up with the Law Abiding Biker t-shirt. It's badass. Get your custom t-shirt now exclusively in the Law Abiding Biker store, lawabidingbiker.com/store or /shirts. Either way, it'll get you there. Let the world know you are part of the biker revolution. Rock your shirt wherever you go and post your pics on our Facebook page. We'd love to see them, guys. That also helps support us, but of course you get a badass shirt in the process. Lab Podcast hotline phone number. Leave us your voicemail, 509-731-3548. See if we can't get it answered and or posted on a show, guys. All right, if you can't do anything, if you can't monetarily help us, please at least go over to lawabidingbiker.com/iTunes or /Stitcher Radio. Give us ratings. It helps us bump up in the rankings so more bikers can find us around the world and join the biker revolution. Peace out.